Yeah, maybe if I just jump into the next one, obviously related to the topic
Yeah.
of one, is what type of structures do people typically establish offshore to conduct their business operations, and which jurisdictions?
As I said earlier, primarily in Southern Africa, and I think you know, in the eastern side of Africa, and people coming in also to Southern Africa favor Mauritius quite extensively as a jurisdiction. Got a very favorable tax rate. It's very low in its bureaucracy, and it's very compliant, which is very important. And the structures that people generally look to set up, Becky, are your typical company structure. So they will use a company structure. And a lot of the times they also put a trust structure on top of that, as we call it. So they can also build in some estate planning facets and also put in place a structure that's also going to mitigate taxes as best as possible. And I use the word mitigate and not avoid, because we're allowed to mitigate taxes, but we're not avoid taxes. So we typically find a lot of companies working either as a company or utilizing a trust structure on top of it, holding the shares in the company as the entities that they typically like to use. And which you know makes sound sense at this point in time. As we know, we live in a very fluid environment, Becky. So you know, laws can change and a whole lot of things can happen, which is why your flexibility and the jurisdiction that you set up is important if you need to change. But generally, the company structure with a trust interposed quite often works very well for a lot of people on the corporate side.
Maybe if I just add a spin-off there, could you just also just unpack maybe or guide or advise with regards to a typical business, South African business setting up shop in Mozambique? And obviously we know that in Mozambique or in some African countries, it is problematic at times. There are a bit of constraints into expatriating your profits back to your land of origin. So the solution obviously would be to set up and some sort of an offshore structure.
Correct.
Mauritius. And how are the laws between Mozambique and Mauritius? Is it doable? Do the laws in Mozambique allow you to send profits in
absolutely
offshore?
So you can set up a non-resident. You can be a company in Mauritius and set up a company in Mozambique, and it's got a double taxation agreement with Mauritius. Both countries have got a double taxation agreement in place, so as to avoid the payment of taxes in both countries. So it's very favorable to that. And then as a non-resident, once you've paid your tax in Mauritius, subject to that double taxation agreement, you can repatriate your profit back out to the Mauritius company. As you're very aware, the exchange control regulations in Mozambique are very strict. And it's very difficult for residents, whether you be a company or an individual in Mozambique, to take money out of the country. So that is one structure that you can utilize in order to expatriate your profit, out of Mozambique back to a Mauritian company. So that is where a lot of people doing business in Mozambique are looking at those structures, because they don't want their capital tied up in the country, because they can't take it out if they just set up a Mozambican company on its own. Are you with me? They would have to apply to the Reserve Bank of Mozambique to expatriate any profit. So you can do that, and you pay your tax, and then you're allowed to, if you made profit, then externalize it back out to the Mauritian company.
And then you can repatriate from Mauritius, obviously, back to South Africa as well, which is obviously
or to any other country, because they don't have any exchange control regulations in Mauritius, which is a big plus in favor of utilizing that country as a jurisdiction.
Okay.
We've got just to make a point there, Becky, we've got a very strong office in Mauritius. We've got a very well-grounded team there. They've been around for a long time.
I've met you.
Are on the ground. They're providing a lot of input. Yeah, you did, Ashwani. Yes, you met him, and so we've got a very well-established team there in Mauritius, and that's a very important point just to make there, is because when people set up entities offshore, they're worried about, while it's in Mauritius, well, can I trust these people? Is my money going to be safe? Who am I dealing with? And that's why I just made the point when we opened up. We've been around a long time. We're a very reputable company, and we pride ourselves in the professional services we provide to our clients and ensure that obviously everything is done correctly and compliantly and professionally, most importantly.
Okay. Maybe just linked to the topic that we just had. Can you also just explain what promotion and protection of investment agreement between South Africa, Mauritius, and Mozambique is?
Yeah, that's a very interesting agreement that we've got in place as South Africa and Mozambique with Mauritius. And these agreements are long-standing. You know, they've been around for a long period of time. And I think what one has to always think about, and I talked about a business strategy or business plan in the beginning, is a risk factor attached to doing business in a country. And one has to be realistic because it's a business and you have to think about it carefully. So the protection of investment agreement basically allows a couple of things, and this way a lot of people are not really aware of it, is that a company or legal entity, all right, that is formed in accordance with the laws of Mauritius is basically defined as an investor in terms of that agreement. And its investment in either South Africa or Mozambique then is protected in terms of the agreement. Now, what is it protected from is always the crucial question that people want to know. And there's really two things that it's protected from, Beggy. The first one is compensation for requisition or loss of property due to war, revolution, a state of national emergency, insurrection, or riot. Now, COVID's quite interesting if you think about it, because we're not in a state of emergency at the moment, but if it, you know, potentially could fall under that category. And effectively what happens, and I'll deal with the second one just now, is that there's compensation from the one country to the other where this has taken place, because the other leg that you protected is on expropriation or nationalization that's taken place without compensation. So in those instances, the investor, being the Mauritian company that's lost assets in either South Africa or Mozambique, for example, can enforce this agreement and claim compensation for the asset that it's lost. So it may not get the actual asset back, but it could say it's worth 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, and then claim compensation. How does it do it? There's a mechanism in the agreement that allows for that. And basically the matter would be referred for international arbitration at the International Center for the Settlement of Investment Disputes. And its decision is binding on the parties as if it is part of their national law. So they have to give effect. So the country would have to give effect and recompensate that party. So, you know, we talked about the importance of selecting a jurisdiction to do business with. In Africa, and I talk Southern Africa, this becomes a very important facet of doing business, or choosing Mauritius as a place also to set up an entity to do business from, because effectively you're considered to be a Mauritian national, if I can put it that way, by setting up an entity in that country. And that agreement gives you protection on those two instances.
No, definitely. I think risk assessment is crucial in everything you do when you're going cross-border, you know, to look at what the risks are and the mitigations of risk or remedies for that.
That's what we can do when we do business, can't we? I mean, we can't eliminate risk completely, but, you know, just thinking about where you're going to do business and how you're going to do business can mitigate a lot of risk for you. And you've hit on a very valuable point there, Becky. Yeah.
And then maybe just, I know it's like a standard question, but can you just maybe help people, just informing people as to what the importance is of utilizing a proven and reliable service provider when setting up an offshore structure? What the risks are?
There's you know, when you set something up offshore, you know, you want comfort around the fact, as I said earlier, that you're utilizing a provider that's got a proven track record, number one. Number two, can deliver what you're looking for in terms of service. So we pride ourselves in our service of our client relationships and managing the entities with the clients, because it takes a lot of work, Becky. So service is critical, and the feet on the ground aspect is important. So for example, we're in South Africa, we travel to Mozambique, we're even traveling up to East Africa. So we're in those jurisdictions all the time. We're accountable to the clients there, and we basically are not just some, like I always say, you know, the age of technology, some robot that just sits on the other end of a call center phone and provides information. We deliver that service on the ground, and we've got those specialists in the fields in those areas all across the world. And obviously we, you know, haven't had time to go cover all the jurisdictions, but they range all the way from the Caribbean right across to New Zealand and everything in between, basically. But it's important to have those specialists on the ground in those jurisdictions that I can relate to or liaise with if we're setting up a structure in Hong Kong or the UAE or whatever the case may be. So there's accountability, and I think that's a big part of doing business with a recognized and proven product provider such as Amicorp. And, you know, people who are listening, more than welcome to go onto our website. Just Google it, Amicorp, and you'll pick up our website and you'll see greater explanation and more detail on all the services that we do provide. But we're here to help and serve and to make sure that we deliver a service, particularly if we're going to work in the Southern African context, to people and clients that ultimately want to utilize us to execute those structures, Becky.
No, Ben, I think, we've summed it up. And guys, as you've heard it, Ben has broken it down as to setting up offshore and what to look for, what the risks are, and, what solutions there are. But the good thing is, obviously, he's just shared with us his website. And Ben, could you also share your email? I don't know if you'd like to share.
Absolutely, no problem at all. I'll share my email with you.
Yeah.
So it's B.Seymour-Brown, SEYMOURBROWN at Amicorp, AMICORP.com, and cell numbers 086 64. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Let me do that again. My mobile again is 083 953 3333.
No, we thank you very much for sharing with us, Ben. And I'm hoping that we're going to have more fruitful conversation where you're unpacking just dynamics with regards to trade and what kind of solutions, what kind of products you guys can help. So I'd like to thank you again, and to the guests for plugging in. So do catch us again. Thank you, Ben, very much.
Thank you, Becky. Really appreciate you hosting me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.